Hi there again. Hey, Mr. Bills here. We're going to continue with our color theory using our colored pencils. You're going to have this sheet. It's called our color theory chart. And I've got a little head start just so this video doesn't take quite as long. And I'll let you know what's going on here. The first four sections are pretty straightforward. Okay, I'm sorry, the first three sections are pretty straightforward. Don't worry about these bottom ones yet. That'll be continued a little bit later. The primary colors, we've talked about that. Yellow, blue, and red. All you're going to do is fill those in. Okay, but the trick here is, or the idea here, is I don't want any gradation. I don't want any change. I want this to be what's called a flat color. So as you're using your shading rules, and your little circles, and you're kind of bouncing around. And if you notice, when I've done these, I've left, like I've mentioned, I've left the edge of my area that I've colored kind of lumpy and bumpy and irregular. It really helps when you want to then continue making it lumpy and bumpy. And I'm only going to finish this one, so I'm pressing really hard. Don't go soft on it. I want this to be a really good, flat, rich, bold, intense color. All those words kind of mean the same thing as far as what we're doing here. Try to have a nice clean edge. When you go up to a straight line, you have to use some straight lines to get it started, and then let it turn into those little overlapping circles. So inside this red and all of these other colors, you should only see one tone, one value of red. No highlights, no gradations, no blending, nice and thick and rich and solid, something like that. Then you do the same thing with blue and yellow, and it just tells you right here what the colors are. So that's pretty straightforward. When we did the color wheel, we also talked about secondary colors. Excuse me. And you're going to do the exact same thing. Nice, thick, rich, bold color. Okay, so grab your orange or whatever your secondary colors are, and it's really the exact same thing, but I won't finish that. Okay, down to complementary colors. That's something a little different than we've talked about. Complementary colors, and it kind of gives the definition here on all these, is or are the two colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. So this color wheel is not finished. It's the same one we just did in the last video, but it's here to help you determine what complementary colors are. So if you took a straight line and went straight across, yellow orange and blue violet are complementary to each other. But you don't have to do that. You can do something that's more simple, like red and green, because we have a red pencil and we have a green pencil. You don't have to use those colors that you blend together. So I did red here already. And where's my green? Don't use the yellow green, use the regular green, and I'll just get this started. Again, these need to be rich, bold, flat color, just like up here. And the idea with complementary colors is this: they get used a lot in things like landscapes, and when you do portraits and lots of other things, because complementary colors will dull each other out. So you don't have to do this, but if I took a green and just made a little strip of green, and then I made a little strip of red, and now I'm going to go over the green with my red, so just part way. So that color right in the middle, see, it's kind of it's almost like a color that's difficult to describe. It could be kind of a greenish red or a reddish green, and it tends to be kind of neutral. They dull each other out, kind of like when you add black and white together and they make gray. When you overlap and mix two complementary colors together, they dull each other out. It's a really good thing to understand when you're drawing lots of different things. So that's why we concern ourselves with complementary colors. And again, as you're doing this, make sure you leave this irregular, just like we did up there. Orange and blue are our complementary colors. You can use the same blue or the other blue. I'm going to use the other blue, the darker blue color on this chart, where before on the color wheel I used that sky blue color in your set. Either really is fine for this. And again, make sure you leave that kind of lumpy and bumpy. Over here, I'm doing something a little different. I'm making red violet. Okay, so I have the blue in my hand. So I put some red down with firm pressure, but not really hard pressure. Then I wasn't quite through because I wanted to show you. I'm putting in some blue to help get it to be kind of a, whoops, scratch that. I have to use violet. I'm using violet. Sorry about that. It looks pretty close. I'm using violet to make a red violet. This is looking, yeah, there's definitely some red in there. And I can use red again. Now I'm gonna press kind of hard with the red to really make sure that red has some influence on the color. Now, if we go back to our color wheel again, red violet, opposite is yellow green. Okay, yellow green. So you have a yellow green pencil in your set, and then I can just start pressing hard with the yellow green. Now you don't have to do what I did and mix a color. There are enough complementary color sets where you don't have to mix two colors together. It's completely fine. This could have been yellow and violet. It's all good. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, refer. This is why you need to finish this first, because you want to refer to this to get the right colors chosen. All right, now you want to stop the video. Stop the video. Just do numbers 1, 2, and 3, so you get those done, and then come back and restart the video, and we'll go on to number 5 and continue there. Okay, stop the video, do 1, 2, and 3. If I give you too much information ahead of time, it kind of gets confusing. So stop that video. Thanks. Okay, now we're going to go on to the analogous colors. And the analogous colors have to do with the colors that are side by side on the color wheel. Okay, side by side on the color wheel. And we'll need our color wheel, but I wanted to show you this little graphic first that I just kind of sketched out. And I will have a picture of this on the Google Slide sheet here, on the Google Slideshow. So what we have to think about, and we'll go right back to our sheet in a second, is that middle one. That middle one, we are going to either put red or blue. We're not going to use any yellow, no yellow. It just doesn't work as well for this idea of this color theory chart. So this one's going to be red or blue, and then you're going to use your color wheel to decide or realize what color goes next to it on the color wheel, and then what color goes away from red or blue in that direction. And the same thing will happen this way. So if you put blue here, this would be blue violet and then blue. If we put blue here again, this would be blue green and then green. So I'll do little patches of color on this one. I'm certainly not going to finish it, so I'll just do little patches of color. And again, this needs to be completely solid, just like the rest of these colors. Okay, no gradation, no fading. Make sure you get a nice clean edge right there. Nice clean corners. And again, I'll only do a strip of it just to give you the idea. And make sure, again, I know I keep telling you this, but people tend to forget, leave that little bumpity lumpity kind of edge, and it helps the rest of it. Okay, so that whole thing would be blue. Okay, then if you go back to your color wheel, if you go in one direction, it's blue, green, then green. So like I said, here we have to put blue, but maybe not quite as dark. just a little bit lighter. See that? It's just a little bit lighter so the green can have some influence. And just like you did on your color wheel, you're going to then put some, I'll do this right now, put some green on here. So these two colors are going to be real similar to each other. And typically analogous colors blend together real easily. So if you're doing choosing colors to do anything, analogous colors are ones that always blend together easily. And you'll hear people use the word analogous in other circumstances as well. If two things are analogous, that means they are alike and have similar qualities. Then this last one would be just green. So now I'm just going to use green. Again, nice and firmly. And keeping that nice clean edge. So that one would be all blue-green, just like you see a couple of these that are filled in solid. Don't leave it like I am here. I'm just trying to save some time. And then in the other direction, from blue, we would go to blue-violet and then violet. So again, I get my blue out again and make this blue just a little bit lighter. Leaving the edge of it kind of lumpy and bumpy. And it's important to try to use the same pressure so you don't wind up with accidental dark and light spots. Now I have my violet and I can press firmly to get those to mix together. And again, these two colors will be very much alike, just like from before. And then I'll just use my violet on the last section. And again, in the slideshow, you will see a finished version of all of this, so you'll get an idea of what it looks like finished. Okay, so red or blue here, no yellow. Okay, no yellow. Then look at your color wheel to go on either side of that red or blue, and then you fill those in nice and solid, thick and rich and bold and dark. All right, stop the video, please. Do that one, and then restart the video to do the next one. All right, now that you have finished the analogous colors, we're going to move on to number 5, the tint. And here it says a tint is when you add white to a color. So with colored pencil, adding white is going to be like adding the white of the paper. So that means we need to press softer to add white with colored pencil. If this was paint, we would literally add white paint to it. But again, I have this little graphic that I've sketched out, and I'll have a picture of this in the slideshow so you can refer back to it. It gets kind of technical, so you want to pay attention to this. Again, we're not going to use yellow, no yellow, and you'll see me demo this in a second, but in that first square, if we're just looking at the color that we chose, and I'm going to use orange, just use anything but yellow, it's totally fine. We're going to press 100% pressure. The percentage has to do with the pressure that you apply. So I'm going to press as hard as I can here. The next one I'm going to press firmly, but not as hard as I can. And then 60% pressure, half, maybe a little more than half. Then 40% pressure. I'm starting to put that pencil farther back in my fingers so I don't press so hard, but I'm still trying to be nice and smooth. This time you're not pressing as hard like you were before. The last one, I'm holding the pencil really far back so I can make it pretty light. Okay, so you'll see how that goes. And again, I'm not going to finish the whole thing. I'm just going to do little patches so you get a sense of it. So again, right here, and again, I went a little bit too light at first right there. See, that's a little bit too light. So I'm going to push a little harder. So 80% pressure is not super light. It's still pretty firm, but it's just not going to be quite as dark as this next one. So it will kind of look like this whole thing goes from dark to light, but you should be able to tell where different color patches are, where different little color sections are. So that's my 80%. And again, leave it a little bumpy and lumpy. So when you continue, okay, here's my 60%. So I think that one might be a little bit too light. I'm going to go a little darker with it. And again, this is something you'll do. You can make adjustments. Okay, here's my 60%. It should be just a little bit lighter than that one. And again, I'm trying to be as smooth as I can, but go quickly for you. Okay, so that's 60%. See, it's a little bit lighter. 40%, I'm going to start holding the pencil farther back, like I said, and get it. You can still control it, even though you're holding it a little farther back. You just have to focus and concentrate. And when you're doing a drawing, you're going to have to do this kind of thing. You're going to have to really judge how dark or how rich one color is next to another, or how dark and light things are next to each other. So this isn't just a little boring chart that you're filling in. You're really developing the skills and the artistic eye to make your artworks more successful. Okay, down here is 20%. I'm going to hold the pencil really far back and get a nice light version of yellow. I'm sorry, orange. Again, trying to make it all the same tone without getting any dark and light patches in there. You could almost think of this as peach, kind of a peach color. Okay, and again, you'll fill in the whole thing, just like you see up here. Okay, now let's go back to our little graphic so you can refer to this as well. So now we're going to use white. We're going to add white to it to help get it kind of smoother. So again, these numbers have to do with percentages, just like up here. So 100, 80, 60, 40, and 0. So the one we do on the 100%, there's no white whatsoever. But the numbers are the same otherwise. So we're going to take our white, which is still... Oh, there it is. Put it to the side. So here we go. On top of here, we're going to press as hard as we can with the white. And I want you to really see what happens to the texture. Okay, see how it affects. Because then you can use this ability. This is your training. This is your practice on what happens when you add white. Then, here, we're going to add white, but at 80%, just like it said on that little graphic. Again, look at the Google slide that has a picture of it to get the idea. This one is 40%, and again, I'm pressing soft. You can't tell how hard I'm pressing, and it doesn't make a really big change here, but it does help smooth it out. So later, when you're using color pencil and you press lightly with a color, but you want that color to look like it's kind of thick and rich, just like as if you pressed hard with it, you can use white to get that effect. Now I'm pressing really lightly with the white. Again, mixing it all in, and there's no white on this one at all. So let me get a piece of paper here and kind of cover up the unfinished part. So here you can see each one is separate from each other, but they kind of look like they're connected because they go dark to light. And each one is nice and smooth. Each one is the same value inside the entire box. But again, you're going to finish that whole thing. Okay, stop this video, do the tint. Okay, make sure you have that done. And again, refer to the other slides that have the finished sample on it. Use any color but yellow. Still no yellow, please. And we'll see you on the next video. Okay, we're back again. Now that you have finished the tint, so the whole thing is finished, and again, please stop the video each time I ask you to, and do that one so so you don't get too much information ahead of time. Now we're going to do shade. Shade is when you take a color and add black to it. That's all it is. It's just the opposite of a tint. And again, you'll use this idea when you are doing some colored pencil drawings in the future. So all it is the exact same thing, but it's a little bit different. So again, I have my little graphic here to show you. When you do a shade, and again, we're not going to use yellow, I'm going to use the sky blue color. Up on top, it's the same idea, but the numbers are different. The first one, 100%, that's the same. But from then on, you are going to use the color, but only make it ever so slightly lighter. See, over here on the far right, it's still pretty dark as far as how hard you're pressing. It's still pretty rich, I should say, or intense. And the difference is going to come when we do black. Okay, so let's do like 98, 96, 94, 92 real fast. And again, I'm just going to go right above right on the top. It won't take long at all. So this one is practically the exact same as the one next to it. And as I kind of work on these, I'll again trying to do them fast but smooth. Take your time. It's in any of these projects, you guys, is way better to get good quality than try to rush things. If I see shading that looks like that, or coloring where you're just really scribbling, your grade goes way down. Okay, so we really want to make that shading technique of those little overlapping circles to be habit, so you don't have to think of it ever again. Okay, so the next, that's 98%. That's almost 100%. This one is going to be practically just like that one, except I'm trying to think of pressing just a little bit softer. Okay, I'm rushing it a little bit. I don't think it's, if I did this in hyperspeed or time lapse, it would take about 1.5 seconds. And this one, let's get that one a little bit darker. This one is still 94%, still pretty firm. So you can see them getting just a little bit lighter compared to each other. Then this one is just, again, they're practically the exact same. Just maybe just a little, just a whisper quieter, or I'm sorry, lighter. Okay. Now, here's the part that really makes this happen. When you use the black, if you were to do 100% black over the blue, it would just totally wipe out the blue. And we want the blue to still have some influence. So that's why we start with 80% black. Don't push as hard as you can. And then the black gets lighter and lighter, and then we go with no black on the last one. So here, this is the 80% black. I'm pressing pretty hard. And as you can see, it kind of just takes over. It's a real strong, powerful color. And the idea is, if I put 100% black right next to it, and I will here when we finish this one, hopefully there's a little bit of a difference. And I think what we can also do, again, this is kind of firm, but not as hard as I can. I can then put some blue back over the top of this. Now I'm pressing hard with this to try to get that to look kind of like a dark blue. So let's look what happens when I just put black right next to it. See, now you can see that little difference right there. Okay, now we're going to do 60% black. Again, a little bit less. With the black, again, you want to keep those shading rules going. Again, I'm kind of rushing this just for the demo. See, there's just a little bit of difference there. Then this is 40%. I'm starting to get kind of light, let the blue show through more. So again, it'll kind of look like it's one continuous gradation. Hopefully you're going to be able to see kind of different sections of a shaded blue. Again, don't use yellow for this. So that's 40%. Again, refer back to the slide. That shows all those percentages of pressure. Now I'm going to hold the pencil farther back and get pretty darn light with the black. And that blue should, and again, I can go over this with the blue again, and over that with the blue again, kind of like we went over it with the white. kind of use it as a blending tool. It's totally okay. But again, it does not fix sloppy shading. And so if you shade real sloppy, it's not going to fix that. It's only going to help blend together shading that was done nicely and carefully in the first place. No black on this one. So again, let me get that piece of scratch paper and cover up and see what this looks like. So each one of those blues gets darker. It's nearly black there, and you can just kind of see the blue peeking through until it's all blue. Again, once again, you'll do the whole thing. All right, stop that video, do the shade, and then when we come back, we will do the neutral colors down at the bottom. So stop, do this one, and then we'll see you when you're done with that. All right, we're ready for the last part of this color theory chart. It has to do with neutral colors. Neutral colors, it says down here, black, white, gray, and tan. We're not going to worry too much about black and white, but we might add a little bit of black and white to a couple of these colors. We're going to worry more about gray and brown. Okay, so what we do is this. And again, this picture will be on one of the slides in the slideshow. So make sure to refer to this, because this one gets a little tricky for a lot of people. Let's see, let's get my brown here. And what happens is this. You're going to make a simple design. I would just think of it as a checkerboard. Okay, so first thing, let's just go like 3 lines going across this way, because we're going to need, and then 2 lines going across that way. These lines can be perfectly straight. That has no bearing on your grade whatsoever. We just make it a real simple design that has 12 sections. Okay, so it needs 12, so 4, 8, 12. So if you do 3 lines in one direction, 2 in the other direction, then you'll get 12 sections that you can fill in. Okay, that's what I'm talking about as a simple design. Then as we do this, here's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to make 2 dark gray tones that match each other, 2 medium gray tones that match each other, and 2 light gray tones that match each other. And the same thing's going to happen with brown. 2 dark, medium, and light tones. Each one of those matches each other. Okay, and here's how we're going to kind of do this. And these 2 tones may not be right next to each other. They can be corner to corner, but not side by side. All right, so here's how we're going to do this. So we need a dark brown, and it doesn't matter where you start. It really doesn't matter at all. Excuse me. Doesn't matter at all where you start. And I'm not going to fill in the entire thing, again, just to help save some time. Now this, since I'm going dark with this brown, I'm pressing pretty much 100%, and I want this thing to all be the exact same. It's a flat, dark tone of brown. Now, I could do dark brown right next to it, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to come over here and make a matching one. And again, this would fill in the entire, in this entire section. Again, there is a finished sample on the Google slideshow that you can see and refer to. Okay, so just have to imagine I did the rest of that one. Now we need 2 medium brown tones. Okay, you can think of it as tan or brown or whatever term you want to use. Now, I want to think of this as like 50 or 60% pressure, because I want it to be definitely a middle tone, but not so dark that it matches this, and not so light that I couldn't go easily lighter. Again, now just pretend I did the rest of that. Now my matching tone to this one cannot be side by side, but it can be corner to corner. So let me just demonstrate that. So this one, and when I'm doing this, I'm thinking about the pressure that I applied here, so it's equal. I'm kind of looking back and forth to make sure that they do match each other. in tone or in value. Okay, again, pretend like I did the rest of that. Now I'm going to hold the pencil really far back and do a light brown. This one should definitely be lighter than this one. And again, I'll just do about half of it. Again, try to make it as smooth as possible. Keep your pressure equal. And I'm going to make that medium tone come down here a little farther so I can really see that those two are different. Again, now the light brown cannot go right here, but I can put it anywhere I want to. It doesn't matter else. Now let me just go down here. Whoops, I went a little bit too dark initially. I just pressed a little too hard there. Now, colored pencil will erase to a point. You can make it a little bit lighter, but you usually can't make it disappear completely. So I'm going to make my light brown patch here. Again, refer back, if this isn't making sense at all, refer back to this graphic on the other slide so you can kind of remember the idea behind it. Okay, so there's my light brown. Then we take our black pencil and now we're going to do a light, medium, and dark gray. So if I press 100%, that's black. So I need to press like that 80%. It's going to be dark, but it's not going to be completely black. So this is a dark gray. That's how we want to think of it. You know, that right over there is completely black. So this dark gray, I'm pressing like 80 to 90% pressure. I could go a little darker and make it black. That dark gray needs a matching dark gray somewhere else. Let's see, it cannot be here. I'll put it right here. Again, I'm just doing little patches of colors to give you the idea. There is a finished one on one of the slides. And then, just like with the brown, we're going to find another spot to make a medium gray tone. So this medium gray tone has to start up. Now check it out. Medium brown and medium gray almost blend into each other because they're both medium tones. And that you're going to find that happening in your artwork, where if this were one of my drawings, I might press a little bit harder right here on the edge and let it fade away to help those two colors look more separate, but you don't need to for this, because I want this medium gray to match, say, this one over here. So again, 50% pressure. And then you'll hold the pencil farther back and find the last two empty spots and do a very light gray. And again, light, excuse me, light gray against light brown are going to look similar to each other. So there's my light gray, and I would do the light gray over here as well to finish this thing off. And again, this looks kind of crummy, all patchwork like that, but I didn't want this to last too long. So you want to do that one, and then you are done with this entire thing. And you will probably hand in that and this and the color wheel as one grade. These two will kind of go together to be one grade. That's how we usually handle it. But again, look at the details, look at the explanation on Google Classroom as far as when it's due and that sort of thing, depending on how we're working school this year. So hang in there with it. Do your best, take your time, and if something goes really wrong, it's completely okay to go on the back or make a new set. Let's get up here. So if you just hate the way you did the analogous colors, just kind of draw another set of boxes right up here and just kind of estimate how big they are. And just do it again right up there. Just kind of cross that out, label it up here, do it on another piece of paper. That's totally fine. I'd rather you see what may have gone wrong and how you can adjust it and fix it rather than just leaving something sloppy or maybe trying to fix it and it didn't work. Try again. Again, you're going to get better at all this the more you try and the more you build your skills. So that's great. I would much rather see you try to fix it than hand in something that you are not satisfied with. All right, here we go, and have fun with this, and then we'll go on to our snowboard after this. See ya.